welcome to UVA Throws Podcast. Can a Division III athlete make his way up to D1 Power 5 school? Absolutely, and our guest today, Ty Kunzman, managed to do just that and more. Ty is one of our best hammer throwers of all time, ranking 6th on our all-time list. He qualified for NCAA East Preliminary Round, threw over 60 meters there. His PR now is 61.20, which is 200 feet and 9 inches. He was named to 2021 ACC Academic Honor Roll and also named to 2021 USTFCCA All-Academic Team. His master's was in higher education at UVA, and now he's doing a PhD at UGA. Ty's story is truly remarkable, worth listening whether you are an athlete or a coach. He did both football and track in college, experienced some injuries and setbacks, but found a way to refocus himself. As I mentioned, he went to D3 school, got his focus together, and if he continues on this trajectory, he will be the first president of the world. I mean, really, folks, the perseverance, the hard work, determination of this guy is incredible. Take a listen. It's well worth it. Without further ado, Ty Kunzman.
All right, so Ty Kunzman. We have Ty here, a graduate student, incredible athlete, tremendous help for our program. Came in from undergraduate degree from somewhere else. And I wanted to talk to you, Ty, a little bit about your whole experience of track and field. So how did you get into throwing in the first place? Were you a thrower in high school? How did that come about?
Yeah, so I started track in middle school, and I originally started because I wasn't very good at baseball when I did that. And my older sister had ran cross country and done track as a distance runner. So when I actually started out, I did distance for a while. Nothing too crazy, just the mile and 800. And then they moved me down to the 400. And around that time, they added in discus and shot. And they had me try out pole vault for a little bit too. But I got pretty big pretty fast. And that's when I moved solely to throwing events. And I kind of originally did it too, just as something to stay in shape in football's off season. And after a while, I developed a passion for it and realized I liked it a lot more than football at the end of the day. So,
okay. And now, when you were going through your recruiting process in high school, did you know you played football in college and track right at the same time? So, is that something you want, or it just kind of turned out like that?
Yeah, so coming out of high school, I was still kind of stuck on football as my sport. And I had some colleges recruiting me for track at the very end of my senior year. And I don't know, I kind of just really still wanted to play football. Yeah. And I definitely based too much of my decision at the time off of that. But I did football my first 2 years of college. I did outdoor track my first year, and my second year I did outdoor and indoor track as well. And at that point, I hurt my knee again playing football, and I still wanted to do something athletically, so I went with track.
So at Hamilton, right? You were doing only 2 years of football?
Yep, my first 2 years.
How was that? So not many athletes get to do both sports. How was training for that? Were you able, how did you throw? When did you throw? Did you have like a fall off? How'd that work?
Yeah, so since it was the Division III level, there really wasn't like off-season practices for track. So I kind of just threw on my own. I had access to the storage lockers where we kept the implements, and I'd go in on my own and practice. And besides that, I just followed the football lifting programs in the off season, which realistically was beneficial at the time, but probably not beneficial in terms of focusing on hammer because it was pretty upper body heavy, specifically the chest.
Yeah.
And then like in the spring when I had track, I would normally have morning football practice. Well, it wasn't practice, I guess. We had like a gym class that was only the football team.
Mhm.
And so I would do that, and then I would have classes. I would have a lift at some point, and then I would have track practice normally. So I'd have about 3 different things each day.
Okay, yeah, that was a lot. I remember when you came in, we had to kind of chill down on some things. You wanted to train a little too hard. There's no such thing as too hard if you rest enough. But you being a graduate student, it's hard to do what you want to do. And yeah, you had a great college career. You came in during the whole COVID. You were able to train, and you did something really cool in your backyard too. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So when I graduated from undergrad, I had been sneaking up to Ithaca College and Cornell University in New York to throw. But because of COVID, I knew I wouldn't have access to the throwing circles there. And my local high schools just didn't quite have fields that were accommodating and cages that were accommodating for practicing hammer. So we had a field next to my house that I went and built a throwing circle in and mowed a sector and stuff, so I could practice on my own. But it was great. But by the time I left UVA, it wasn't quite large enough
Well,
there
this
anymore.
is enough, yeah. No,
But
when I saw that that you did, it was over the summer, over the fall, summer. Well, I
Yep.
guess the COVID when it hit, and I was like, "Ah, this kid is gonna be real special. He wants it real bad. If you build your own ring, that's wanting it bad, right?"
yeah,
All us coaches, we always talk about the grit and how bad athletes need to want it. Building your own ring cement, that's that level. That's that level. And you came in, you had an incredible year, and I remember watching your results from Hamilton, and you did a great job in the weight throw. Playing football and track, that's like I said, really hard to do. And you did really do in weight throw. Hammer, your potential was much higher than your distance was, especially compared to the weight throw. So when you came in, I remember talking to you, and we had a goal of 60 meters. That was, I mean, you have to skip 50 plus. It's just out of a question. We need to go 60 plus to go to your level of your physical ability, your talent. So how was that for you? You hold the whole year. We threw a lot. How was that training compared to the studies that you had to do? Right. So you still this is your 5th year or 4th year of competing, or 3rd year competing. With the COVID and we have to calculate out. You were a junior, but this was your 5th year of school, right?
yeah.
So, and it was the hardest year of school because you had to work so much for the graduate degree. How did you manage to your time at UVA, training hard and then doing master's degree?
Yeah, so it was a little crazy at times. I had an internship I had to do too for my program. So I had that in my free time as well. But a lot of it was just planning and knowing every day what commitments I had, and it changed weekly. So I'd normally just like write it all down on Saturday or Sunday so I knew what I had to do. And the weekends were big. Not really sleeping in on the weekends in the off season when we didn't have meets. It was normally getting up and doing schoolwork or work for my job. But yeah, it's just staying focused, doing work in the morning before practice, and then getting done with practice, doing more work, going to class, getting done with class, lift, eat dinner, and then back to my room to do more studying until whenever it needed to be. So
Would you be able to do the work that you did at UVA in your master's degree if you had the same habits as your freshman year in college?
no, not at all.
So how did you come to that realization? When did it hit you in the college? Like, oh man, I gotta organize my time better.
Yeah, it was definitely a learning curve. I think I I focused a little too much on things I shouldn't have focused on my first 2 years of college, and I didn't hit the books as hard as I needed to. I didn't have a GPA like I wanted, and I don't know. I kind of got to my junior year and I was like, I want to go to grad school, but my grades don't reflect that whatsoever. And I knew that if I wanted to go, I'd need to get them up. And I know my parents also helped me with that. There was I'm trying to think of how it went. It was I think they just sat me down one day and were like, listen, your sister goes to Cornell and you're going to Hamilton. They were like, she definitely has it a little more tough academically. And they were like, her GPA is a little higher. Maybe you need to reinvent your priorities. And that definitely helped along the way too. And coming to the realization that I need to focus on school more. And, I did that my junior and senior year, but I did it even more so in the master's program. So.
And now you're doing your PhD, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm doing a PhD now.
Yeah. So for all you folks out there who are struggling in school, if you take anything from this interview, is that you can change your life around a lot if you change your perspective, right? So you came to realization, help for your parents. And luckily you listen to them. All right. Not many athletes decide to do that, to be open to suggestions. And really, sports is awesome. It's fun. But how many athletes go pro? Right? There's statistics out there in NCAA, how many hundreds something more thousand of athletes in NCAA during the 4 year. And how the percentage of them going pro it's almost like hitting a lottery, right? So you can't really bank your success on athletics, even if you play football, even play baseball or basketball, let alone track, right? So what are you studying? And how did you get to like what you're doing?
Yeah, so I am studying at the Institute of Higher Education at the University of Georgia, and I'm getting my PhD in higher education. And so I started out as a government major in undergrad because I knew I kind of wanted to work with policy in the public sector. And that seemed like the best way, obviously. And then, I don't know, as time went on, I was like, politics at the moment are pretty heated on both sides in the US. And I was like, I don't know if I want to spend the rest of my life in a constant argument. And the more I studied, the more I realized that the root of a lot of the problems that currently are going on stem from education, where if we have a more educated society and offer more opportunities to students and individuals from a younger age, we can resolve a lot of the inequities we have and issues that we have in the public sector. So then I kind of tailored my research interests as time went along into what I'm more interested in now in higher education, which is specifically improving access, enrollment, retention, and graduation rates for students with disabilities and students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. And then in addition to that, I'm also interested in more of a social aspect in improving sense of belonging among these students. So once we get them into college, how do we make them feel welcome and included in the atmosphere, specifically one that they might not be accustomed to? So
that's that's such an important field, and it's such important to have so many disadvantaged students, young men and women, who are capable of many incredible things, but they feel or unwelcome, or they don't have resources. So that's really noble of you. That's not selfish at all, right? completely opposite, and we definitely need more of that. So yeah, I hope I know it's going to go well because you're a great student and a great human being overall. You're trying to help many people around you, like you have here at UVA. You're a lot of help to many athletes, some friends that you're going to have for a long time. So we were happy to have you in that 1 year blink of your experience. And how long is your program? How long is your program there?
So I will have 2 years of instruction, which will be fall, spring, and summer classes. And then I'll have 1 to 2 years for writing my dissertation, depending on how quickly I get through that. So we'll see.
So you
No.
be 3 or 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good. And do you want to stay on the East Coast? Because you've been from the Northeast to the middle, right, on East, and now you're on the bottom of Southeast in Georgia. Do you want to stay on the East Coast or?
Yeah. I so I still haven't quite figured that out. I definitely want to stay on the East Coast. I know New York was too cold for me, and then
Virginia, I was like, all right.
It was like, all right, you've got the cold, you've got the heat. And then now I've been in Georgia for only a couple weeks, but it's definitely a different kind of heat down here. So I'm thinking I'll probably end up somewhere in the middle, probably around Virginia when I'm done, but
Go back
definitely on the East Coast.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and in terms of your journey through different universities, how, as a student, what are some challenges you had, and you see the difference in obviously focusing on school, an environment that you have to control? How do you feel? What helped you go through all those? Because Hamilton is quite different than UVA, and then now UGA, right? So what are some similarities that you see across, or some differences?
Yeah, so
Not in a good or bad way, just in terms of
yeah,
culture, maybe. Yeah.
I guess not to make it too simple, but all colleges are kind of the same in that you go to get an education, and also you're going for an experience, for meeting people and making connections and learning more about the area you're in. So they were all kind of similar on that level. Hamilton was incredibly small. There was only around 2,400 students.
Oh, wow.
So at Hamilton, and obviously it was a Division III school, so sports were quite different as well. But you had to advocate for yourself less at the institution because there was more robust support systems, and they were able to focus more on each individual student. Whereas I think when you get to a larger university, if you feel like you need help academically or in any other aspect, you need to reach out to the resources that are available. Not that they don't want to help you, but there's so many students that look at each student and assess their needs and help them. So that was definitely different, but there's also, different resources available. So like at UVA, for instance, if I needed help tutoring, or if I needed tutoring, I could reach out and get that in any of my classes through the athletic department. Whereas like at Hamilton, that wasn't a resource that was available to student athletes. And yeah, it's just what you make of it at the end of the day. If you invest the time and you try and make connections and try and utilize every resource you have available to you at the institution, the experience will kind of, I guess, I don't know how to explain it. I guess make itself,
Yeah, the result will come. Yeah. Briefly, if you put your effort in it, the good result will come. And I think that's a really very good point to make. Sometimes athletes, and we are in a great institution. UVA is a great school academically, athletically, but it doesn't mean that you cannot do some incredible things at a smaller institution as you have, right? So your path went through Hamilton, 2,000 students, to UVA, and now at Georgia, 300,000 students. So when I was there, it was 33,000. Right. So it doesn't matter where you are, pretty much. It matters what you want to do with it. And you made a decision second year, like, okay, I gotta get my stuff together, right? I'm at university, and still it's a university, it's a good university. Any university in the US, I would say it's really good compared to other countries. And you can get a lot out of it if you really want to get it, right? So even though you're at a small school, you did incredible things, get your stuff together, third and fourth year, go into a master's program at UVA, now into PhD program at UGA. So I think you are a great example of, for all these kids, like, oh, I gotta go to the big school, right? If I don't go to the big school, oh my God. No, yeah, you might, that's a great thing, but if you don't have opportunity, or you didn't do well in high school, in athletically or academically, you can still work your way and finish up. The PhD, right?
Yeah.
So I think your path is really good example of that. A lot of kids get their mind and names are very important to them, and prestige, right? But really, it's there's so many spots you can have for one team. Like every year we only have 12 spots for incoming athletes, right? Transfers also just few. And there's thousands of athletes who want to come here. And I'm not saying this to boost ourselves, but that's literally the case, right? And at the big schools like UVA is. But even if you don't make it, you could do the path that you did and be wherever you want to be, right? With your master's degree or transfer. There's a lot of athletes that I know. One of my best friends, he went to junior college for 2 years and transferred to UC Berkeley, right? And he finished up there. So you can do a lot of good things in small schools. So to go along with that, what would be your suggestion to high school athletes when they're looking for college? And you being on 3 different institutions now, what would be something that you would, if you could go back to your junior year in high school, what would be some things that you would think about?
Yeah, if I could go back, I think the thing I would want to know that I know now is that athletics are great, but you can't base it all on sports. And I think definitely coming out of high school, a lot of my decision in terms of college was where could I play football. And I think you got to look at it a little more and see where you're going to grow the most academically. And you don't need to go to a college where you're going to be surrounded by like-minded individuals. It's definitely nice to have a group of people who you'll get along with, but you also want to be exposed to new ideas and just different viewpoints to help you grow as an individual as well. And I would say just explore everything as much as you can. Use the resources you have available, your guidance counselor if you have one. If not, I think College Board has a website where you can go through and look at different colleges and compare based on, like radius to your house or just like what programs are offered, things like that. And just explore that. And once you kind of narrow it down, go to each individual college website and look over what you can find. And if you want to know more, call up the college and start asking questions. They're always willing to answer and help you out. So
I didn't even know about that website. That's a great resource. It seems like a good resource to have. How far was Hamilton from your house, from your home?
Yeah, so Hamilton was only 2.5 hours. That was another thing coming out of high school, is I kind of wanted to stay close to home, just because I traveled some only in the US when I was younger. So I was very much a homebody, and all of my family lived pretty close by. So I knew I wanted to stay close enough where if I wanted to sneak home for a weekend or something, I could.
Get your laundry done?
Yeah, I never did that.
No.
My sister
good job.
But I always tried to get it done before I came home. There's nothing worse than coming back after a nice relaxing weekend and having a pile of laundry to do.
Yeah. So. No, that's a lot of decisions are made. A lot of athletes make decisions on that too, proximity to home, right? And it's okay not to be not afraid, but to be more comfortable with something, right? Something within a radius that you can, like you said, drive home in a couple of hours, be home, and that's completely fine, right? So it's important that you make a decision on something that you are comfortable with, and not again just something because this kid went there and you want to be where that guy or that girl is, or where those guys, that team is. So make a decision on somebody else because of somebody else's preference and then your own. So so in college, what are some things that helped you go through? So in terms of not even school, it can be knowing, right, the car, old car repair that you did, some tricks that helped you through, or that you wish you knew. like housing, because you were looking for housing, right? What are some obstacles to look for high school kids to warn them?
Yeah. It's a great question. I guess if your parents ever want help making dinner or doing laundry or things like that around the house, help them, because you're going to need to know how to do that, or you're going to be completely clueless when you need to do it on your own. Also worked a lot of different jobs growing up. I did like construction for a while and painting and just like helping with mechanical stuff on vehicles. And that paid off certainly when I got on my own and had things that needed to be done. And yeah, just rely on the support structures you have in place, like community members, old coaches, your parents. If you're feeling down or you feel like you need help with something academically or just life related, call these people up and talk to them, or shoot them a text, email, whatever. Make as many friends as you can. You can't have too many friends. Do it in the right way. You don't have to go out to make friends. You can meet people in the library or clubs and stuff, but yeah, just build a big network and work hard along the way and rely on what resources you have available. So
no, when I went to college, first thing, like, I wish I knew that as well, or I wish I wasn't so proud to meet new people and to ask for help. I think as soon as you realize that it's okay to say like, hey man, I don't know how to do this. Like, this is completely out of my comfort zone. Not just laundry. So that's a very good example that you brought up. My first laundry work was, I'm a grown ass man at this point. I'm 18, 19 years old. Yeah, it was, I put everything together, even shoes did not look good. But it's very, very important to know that it's okay to ask for help, right? Because the sooner you do, sooner you can get better. You can, not just laundry, not just life in general, cooking. Oh my God, dining halls is the best thing in America, because if there were no dining halls, I would be eating cardboard. I mean, cooking on my own. But I learned that all the time too. So summers when the dining halls are closed, that was a learning curve as well. So yeah, that's very, very important point, to ask for help right away. And it's fine, because everybody needs help. Everybody needs help in something. You're not born knowing anything, and you have to fail first a couple of times, and that's fine, right? And you did a good job of that. You did a good job of that. Now, having a car or not having a car in college, pros and cons.
Yeah, so I didn't have a car in college until my senior year. Actually, so I shared a car with my sister all through high school. And then she went off to college, and she had graduated at that point and had a job and a car of her own. So the car was just sitting at home, and I kept asking my parents if I could take it to college with me. And they kept saying, if you get a 4.0, you can take it to college with you. So I think I finished, I was quite devastated, because my junior spring, I finished with a 3.85 or a 3.9. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to have the car then for senior year, but they ended up surprising me and telling me, since I turned around my grades by, honestly, it was about a 1 GPA point total. So about a 2 to 3. They said I could take the car, and it was great. And then I got a different car before I came down to Virginia. And it was manual. I learned how to drive it like 2 weeks before getting down to Virginia. So my first month was a little challenging, because I live in a pretty rural area in New York. So having to go from that to driving that in the city was quite different, but
changing all the gears all the time, right?
Yeah, it's beneficial, but if you can walk to places, it's certainly cheaper walking than it is driving. And I mean, I ended up selling the car because it broke down probably 4 times while I was at UVA, where I'd have to get towed or drive it 50 yards, pull over on the side of the road, wait for it to cool off because the radiator was down, and then drive another 50 yards until I could get it to a garage. So little things like that made it
Little things.
interesting. But yeah.
It makes memories, though. It makes memories.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it's there are pros and cons, right? So if it's having a car and then having to store it, parking, gas, and all that, insurance, and making sure over the summer to store it somewhere. But it is convenient to have it so you can go to a grocery store, get to places faster, obviously. So there's pros and cons. And one pro or con, depending how you look at it, is people who don't have a car, you will be their taxi driver in a good way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Well, good. And about UVA again. So to go back, you came here. We had an incredible year. You went from 48, 49 PR to plus 60, right? So how was that growth for you, and how in terms of training, throwing, monotone, how did you keep yourself motivated? Right. So you're coming here for school, but you're coming here to throw, and we know that you can throw far, but you're doing heavy work on the hard days. How did you keep yourself motivated every day? Because that's a big commitment to do.
Yeah. It was tough. I know. So when I came from Hamilton, at the D3 level, I don't know. I think my head got too big for myself, and I felt like a big deal.
You're badass.
Yeah. And then I got to UVA, and I'm surrounded by talent like Ava, Jacob, Claudio, Ethan, the entire squad. And I realized I wasn't quite as good as I thought I was. And I'm a pretty competitive person. So it helped having those people around to just try and beat them and everything. I know Jacob and I loved it the entire year. Yeah. We'd intentionally try and beat each other in every meet, and we'd be talking trash to each other after the meet and stuff, all in good fun. Yeah. And in the weight room, we would, if he had 200 kilos on the bar, I would put 201 on the bar. So we would do little things like that to just try and be ahead of each other and everything, or just who could get through the workout as fast as you can, obviously in a safe way, not trying to, do crazy things. But yeah, just little things like that. It helped. And on the tough days, I just kind of just remember why you're there and what you want to accomplish. Since I was little, I always wanted to do D1 football, and that was a big thing. And then I got older, and track, became a big part of my life. And it was well, I have distances right now that could get me into a D1 program. And honestly, when I applied to UVA, I was completely clueless about how good the track team was and how good the throwing program was. And, I got there, and it was just like a dream come true. And the biggest thing for me on tough days was just you're getting to do something that so many people in the world never have the opportunity to. And you get to do it with a lot of special people. It's I'd tell Claudio and Ethan and Jacob all the time. I'd be they'd be complaining about something, and I'd be oh, it's not that bad. In 20 years, I'm going to be watching the Olympics on TV, and I'm going to look at my kids and be see those three guys? I have their phone number. You want me to call them when they're done throwing? Yeah. But just the opportunity to do something that I wouldn't be able to do otherwise was big for me and keeping me motivated along the way. So.
Oh, and we appreciate you that you were so enthusiastic all the time, and that you were so supportive. And I can see in you the football part of your life too, because you were such a team player, right? Track is such an individual sport, but there's so many similarities in a group sport that are in track. What are some of those that you saw? And not many people get to play football at college level and track. What are some similarities that you see in those two sports?
Yeah, so football is definitely different in that when you're on the field, you've got 10 other guys that you have to rely on every play, where if they mess something up, it messes something up for the entire team. But track is also like that. When you get to championships, you want everyone to do well to get the points and win as a team. But track is also unique in that it is a team sport, but it's also so individual. And something that I really liked about track that I felt was less of a thing with football is that in track, it is a team event, but it's all on you and how good you do in your individual event. So there's no point in, wishing that you do better than your teammates and they do terribly, or your opponent does terribly and you do well, because at the end of the day, it's all on you, how you compete and how well you do. So I just felt like, well, I've done track, why not root for your teammate? And if you get to know somebody who's on another team, root for them as well, because, it's not really going to change how you do at the end of the day. So I think that's a big thing with track, but.
No, I can see that you took that seriously too. That how you perform, it's on you because there's distance there, right? So you can't blame it on passing the ball or a team having a lucky game, or lucky pass or whatever, right? It's on you. And I love the way you took, even though you were very, very big self-critic, and you would critique yourself really hard on the meets, ACCs or big meets, but you did incredibly well. I gotta tell you this again, because I know you are biggest critic of yourself. To come in with no experience at this level, right? So yeah, you were a big shot in different pods. You were a big fish in different pods, but to come to D1 first year and end up growing so much, competing with best of the best, like you said, right? You want to know these guys from UVA and from NCAA, right? You competed at ACC with some incredible guys as well, and to come to regionals, so not nationals. You went to nationals, first round nationals, and throw well. I know you wanted to make it all the way, but you throw really well at the first round nationals. It takes guts. All right, so to come, and you'll see a lot of athletes, good athletes in high school, come to that first regional, the first round nationals, and just freak the heck out, right? But you came there and you fought. You came to ACC, you fought, and you did an incredible job. Do you think football helped you with that? Because in football, you got to go head straight with those guys. There's no easy way. It's a brutal sport.
Yeah, I think it's actually less with football and more with track. So actually my senior year of high school, I went to states for discus, and I'd been practicing really well leading up to it. And I thought I had a shot at placing. And I got there the day before and warmed up and was throwing, I don't even know, but the next day I threw probably 30 or 40 feet less than I did in warmups the day before. And I placed, I think, second to last in the state. And I was just like, I'm not going to do this again. And then my freshman year of college, I made it to the championship meet for the league I was in hammer and disc. And I showed up and I did the same thing where I just threw, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 meters less in hammer. I think I fouled out of hammer actually, and disc I threw like 5 or 6 meters less than what I'd been averaging the entire season. And I finally just got to my sophomore year, and I was kind of like, it just left a bad taste in my mouth where I was like, you know what? I have just as much right to be at this meet as everyone else does. I'm here and I qualified for a reason, and it's either going to go well or it's not going to go well, but I'm going to go for it on every throw and see what happens. And that's going to be the result, however it goes. So I think that was a big thing for me, was just losing a few times. Well, not losing, but not performing nearly as well as I wanted to recognize that, it doesn't matter who you're competing against. It's you, the circle, and the hammer or the disc or jab or whatever. So
I often said to my athletes, to you as well, on those couple of occasions, what I like to see is that you go for it, right? So even if you have 3 fouls, we had a young lady who had a first foul, second foul, one of the meets, and then I told her same thing, like, you got to go for it. Like, I don't care if it's a net, I don't care if it's a foul, you got to go for it. And she did. She ended up fouling for a little bit, but that's a success. When you go 100%, okay, not all or nothing, not recklessly, but
Yeah.
hey, like you said, I deserve to be here. I'm going to go for it. I don't want to regret this situation, and you did that really well on all the meets, and it obviously came from a couple of disappointments, right? So like I said, say to all my athletes who don't do well, this is bad, but it's also good if you can learn from it. I had a young man throwing, and he was known for throwing into the net. Okay, so next time we do it, when you do it, write it down. Let's see what you felt, how did it go. You got to learn from that situation, and your disappointment fueled you forward to get there. So there's no such thing as a bad meet or a bad situation in sports. It's another lesson, right? And you had a few of those, and you did well at the end. Now, in terms of injuries, sports often comes with injuries. How did you deal with some of your injuries, mentally and physically?
Yeah. I've definitely had my fair share. Sports related, I've had 4 surgeries now, 3 on my arm, 1 on my knee. I broke my leg another time and had a surgery on that. Yeah, I've got an extensive record at this point. And then just minor injuries, throughout the season and stuff that you need to keep at to improve.
How do you find motive to come back?
Yeah, it's I don't know. I guess, there's gonna be lows, very low lows when you are injured, where you think about all the effort you've put in and just not being able to compete, or not knowing when you're going to be able to compete again, or if you're ever going to reach the level you want to be at again. But I think it's important at the end of the day to just keep pushing forward and know that you'll have another shot at it if you try hard and you do everything you need to do. And for me, it was, I don't know, I have a little sister. So for me, it was like, if I give up now, what's she going to think when she does sports and she gets injured? She's just going to want to give up. And yeah, to me, it was just like, I need to get better. And another thing that was big was a lot of the time, like, especially with all the surgeries, I had doctors or nurses or somebody tell me, or physical therapists, whoever, that I was not going to be able to compete again, or I wouldn't be able to do a sport again, and things like that. And to me, it was always like, if I'm not going to be able to do that, I'm not going to be able to do that, but I'm not going to have somebody else tell me I can't compete again. So if it's going to stop, it's going to be on my own terms. So that was a big thing for me, was always just getting back to it and having the opportunity to do what I love again. So
yeah, perseverance. Yeah, no, that's amazing, and I love both of those examples, or both of those reasons to have somebody who you love, like your little sister, not to disappoint her, right? Because I'm sure she was your biggest cheerleader, right? She would cheer for you and be happy for your results. And you don't want to disappoint her, and you don't want her to set her example that, hey, it's you failed. It's okay to fail and not try again, right? No, it's okay to fail, but you can't just give up, right? So you have to find everything that you can to make yourself better, situation better, as you have through all those surgeries. I think you hold the record for all the years on our team. And you still did well, right? You threw over 60, legit hammer thrower. You became at the end of all that, right? I think to be a hammer thrower, you do need to not to counter the reason, but you have to be stubbornly persevere. I don't know how to frame it. Not to say stupidly motivated, not motivated, but working hard the stupid way. But you have to be persevere so hard. Throwing hammer, we have to throw in the rain, we have to throw in the cold. You're gonna have blisters. Back is gonna hurt if you don't have a good technique. And again, how similar is that to football? Did you guys play over there in some cold weathers and rains?
Oh yeah, I've played games in the snow and the rain, and we had one year that we called it like a mud bowl, where it started raining in the first quarter and they didn't cancel. And by the end of it, you couldn't see the lines on the field because it was just all mud. But yeah, just being able to compete in any condition and get after it is important. So I know. Yeah. And football definitely, for good or for bad, it taught me about competing through a little bit of pain at times. So
Yeah, and
I mean, there's a lot.
when I saw you do that, when I saw you play football, and you were still doing some weight throwing, some hammer, I knew you can be a really good hammer thrower, because we track and field athletes, we're very proud in terms of strength and speed. We always compare ourselves to football players, how better we are than them, right? There's some incredibly strong linemen, but there's some incredibly strong throwers too, right? On average, you'll see a big shot putter or hammer throwers clean much more or squat much more than an average football player. But we in track, what we take it for granted or we don't look at is the conditions that you have to throw or you have to play. And the heat with all that gear, and then in cold, and you have to hit a guy at the freezing temperatures. And that's why, like I said, I knew you can be a really, really good hammer thrower, because you will not mind to throw in the rain or throw in the cold. And there's something about that when you have to work in hard conditions that make you so much better, especially in hammer. I don't know why, but if you look at all these hammer throwers, rarely they come from really nice warm areas, right? Yeah. And it's all these Rudy, he's from up there, these Polish guys, all right, Russian guys back in the day, and still Germans lately. It's something about the hammer that's just, you have to be a little stubborn and go through that little bit of pain to persevere, like Hildmark, right? One example, I remember it was 20 something degrees, 25, 24. It was -8 Celsius. So whatever that is in Fahrenheit, right? He's from Iceland, I'm from Croatia. We do Celsius. So 26 or 25 outside. And I'm like, it's kind of cold outside. It's -8. Do you want to throw inside? And for hammer, as you know, it's more beneficial to throw outside than in the inside. You can see where the hammer is, and you can orient yourself better in the ring. He's like, Coach, it's been safe, but it's not windy. So yeah, let's go outside. I'm like, okay, let's go outside at 24 degrees. So for hammer throw, you have to be a little stubborn, a little persevere like that. And you had that through football, right? So that's why I think that's why not just amazing technique changes that you made, but also the perseverance, and that's why I know you're gonna do really well in the future as well. How long do you tend to throw? Because now you're doing PhD. There's no reason why you should continue throwing hammer. You have a fellowship, or what do you call that?
I'm an assistantship.
Assistantship, yeah.
Yep.
So why you're doing it?
Yeah, it's going to be busy again this year. Since I'm throwing at Georgia for my last indoor and outdoor season. I just don't want to give it up at this point. I've grown to love it, and I still feel like there's a lot more out there that I'm chasing after and can do. I just kind of want to see what I can make out of it. And I've kind of set a number in mind for this year, where if I don't hit that number, I might not keep training afterwards. But if I'm close to that number, then I think I'm going to keep training on my own, just to see what I can do. And I feel like a lot of hammer throwers don't peak until they're in their late 20s, early 30s, because it's so technical. So I feel like I've still got a little bit of time to try and catch up. I know I'm a little behind compared to most people my age, but it's just see what will happen and do it for as long as I can. And I'm sure someday I'll still tinker around with it and maybe do like the Masters meets and stuff like that they have in the US, but we'll see as time goes on and how my body holds up, because it's definitely not an event that is super easy on yourself. But
And I got a few more questions before I let you go. You mentioned about the friends that you met along the way. How in football, obviously, those guys are your brothers, right? You go into the war together. In track and field, you get to know people, and then football is pretty much all Americans. You rarely have somebody from around the world. How was that experience for you to meet all these people from all these backgrounds, from all sizes, right? You have throwers, jumpers, runners, and you make friends from all over the world. How was that experience for you? And is that one of the reasons why you like the sport as well?
Yeah, I do like that. I feel like you said, football is very American based, whereas track is something international. And for the most part, with most of the events, you don't need equipment to do it. So you can do it anywhere in the world. And no, it's definitely been awesome getting to know people. In undergrad, it wasn't as much international students, but like at UVA, I got to meet quite a few international athletes on the track team.
You were minority.
Yeah,
American
I was.
Yeah.
No, it was a lot of fun. Claudio, for example, introduced me to a lot of things that I'd never heard of or tasted before, just food or stuff like that from Chile. So that was pretty cool. And just getting to learn about different cultures, in practice or while you're competing and stuff is, at least for me, I like exploring and I like learning a lot more. So being able to learn while you're throwing, on top of the learning you're obviously doing in terms of technique and everything else, is pretty special and fun.
I like that one learning experience we both had with another athlete from Greece. When you were throwing, he had this little sticky glue.
Yeah.
Apparently I remember that when he told me, like, oh, this is the handball glue. I'm like, oh, I never thought about that until then. And then he gave you some and it works well, right?
Yeah. No, I've been looking at that to see where I can get more of it. I still have some left actually, but I'm already trying to plan for this upcoming season to make sure I have it when I want it. But yeah.
There you go. And I love how, sharing in track and field, even though you competed against each other, he was like, no, here, take more.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, that's one part about track that I love. It's such a diversity and people from all around the world, friends for life that you're going to meet. And you are in great hands over there. You're going to have a great team as well. Coach Babbitt is amazing. Talk about diverse throwers that he coached. Oh my God, from forever until now, from everywhere, including myself. I had a great time meeting a lot of people there. So as much as I'm sad that we couldn't find a program for you, that you couldn't get in, it's something that you wanted, right? Or wasn't here, that you found it at Georgia is awesome. And even though I'm, again, at UVA, I know that you were in good hands there and you're going to have a good time and learn a lot. And like you said, in throwing hammer, there's so much weight on years of throws, number of throws, and you have to mature. It's a old man sport. As every now and then you have a young man, quote unquote, 25, 26, throw far and hammer. You'll see a lot of these guys in their late 20s, early 30s throwing far, 35, still throwing really far, because you do need a lot of number of throws. And I told you just, I would joke every time, right? On practice, like, you just started a couple months ago. Like, this is for a couple months of throwing, you threw a 60 meters. It's incredible. But you do need to throw 40, 50 throws a day, 4 or 5 times a week, 30 to 50, depending on your body, right? So a lot of thousands of throws until you can really feel the implement and throw really far. So you are definitely on that track to do well, but it's just a matter of if you have time. So I'll one more last question, Ty, and I ask this to everybody. If you can give some advice, not just recruiting wise, we talked about that, looking at school, but to these young high school athletes, what would you, or yourself, what would that be?
Yeah, I know, as silly as it sounds, when I was little, I found like a bunch of quotes I liked and I put them up on the wall above my bed. And one that really stuck with me all the way up through was hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So just the idea that, you can make your dreams come true and be able to compete at the level you want and find the success you want if you're willing to give all and make sacrifices to the things in life that, you don't necessarily need to be doing every single day or that often in general, and just get after it. And just work as hard as you can to make your dreams come true, and it'll all work out at the end of the day. There's definitely going to be bumps along the way, but
talent is never enough if you don't work hard. And even if you're not talented, you can get far. I love that. That's so true in your life. That's true in so many people's lives. How many high school superstars did we see that we knew that can do well and then never came up to the expectations, right? And how many times we have seen these quote unquote nobodies come and like, oh my God, right? The cliche example of Tom Brady, right? So he not super fast, nothing special. Works his butt off. Same as Ty Kunzman. So even more. I don't know if you're a Patriots fan in football.
No.
Oh. Okay.
Just about everybody around me up in they're not a Giants fan, they're a Patriots fan in New York, or Bills.
So who's your team?
I like the Chicago Bears.
Oh, why Chicago Bears?
My dad just is a huge Bears fan, and growing up, that was a good way to spend time with him, connect, was watching Bears games. And even though they haven't done very well in the past 10 years or so, I'm still a big fan. So
it's cyclical. They'll come. It goes up and down. But Ty, thank you so much again. And I told you this before, and I'll tell it all the time. You were such a benefit to us, all of us. You made us better by looking at your hard work, looking at your belief in yourself, and the way you dedicated your time, sacrificed so much to come down to Virginia and to make yourself better. It meant a lot to these young men and women who were training with you. Well, you made a lot of friends. You're going to be UVA Cavalier forever, and we're very grateful for everything that you've done for this team. And you keep doing your thing. Keep chasing your dreams.